Good morning, I'm Maurice Barratt and I've got another Life in Lockdown for you. Trust that you're feeling well. I've got a verse for you from Proverbs. Fear the Lord, depart from evil. It'll be health to your navel and marrow to your bones. Wonderful word for lockdown. I want to talk about the war in heaven. I'm continuing with the studies. We're in Revelation chapter 12. And yesterday we saw that the man-child that the woman bears is the bride and it goes up. Israel is the woman. Now the next verse 7, says there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So why not think this is chronological? We're going through a sequence here. The man-child has gone up to heaven, and then the next verse says there was a war in heaven. So surely the war in heaven is after the bride has gone up. Why would we think otherwise? Well, I'll tell you why Christians don't think it's chronological, because they use this scripture of the war in heaven as a proof text for what I call Lucifer myth, that Satan was cast out of heaven before creation. Well, that's lies at the worst and speculation at the best. It's not biblical at all. They're taking scriptures out of context like they do with Isaiah 14 about Lucifer. It's talking about the king of Babylon there. So I'll tell you why it can't be pre-creation. Number one, it's in the book of Revelation. There's no history in the book of Revelation, the letters to the churches, and then Revelation chapter 4 verse 1, the angel says, "Come up, John, come up and I'll show you things which must be hereafter." So the angel's telling John, I'll show you things that will happen hereafter. So it's got to be after AD 70. So if you think Satan was cast out of heaven between AD 70 and now, that's up to you. But it certainly can't have been before. Number two, people say that Satan tried to usurp God and tried to be like God, and he led a rebellion in heaven. There's no scripture for that. Let's read it carefully. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. So who's the aggressor? If I fight against you, I'm the one who starts the fight. And it says Michael fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against him, and prevailed not. It was time for Satan to be cast out of heaven. When the bride grows up, Satan has to be cast out. He can't accuse anymore. The accuser of our brethren is cast down. And number three, Satan loses the battle, is cast out, and is not allowed to enter heaven anymore. It says, I've just read it, neither was their place found any more in heaven. So once he's cast out, his place, is no access to heaven. Well, everyone knows the story of Job. Job didn't happen before creation. And Satan enters heaven and is having a nice conversation with God. So he had access to heaven. And how can he accuse us unless he goes before the judge of all the earth to accuse us? You can't accuse outside the court. You have to go to the court to accuse us. He has to accuse us. I believe he's on the left hand of God. That's his place. Jesus is on the right hand, is our advocate. God's the judge. And Satan on the left hand is the accuser of the brethren. Think about it. So Satan's cast out when the man-child goes up. And I believe that's going to happen in the near future. What happens now? Verse 10 and 11. And I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, Now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of the testimony, and they loved not their lives unto death. I'm sure you realise if you're watching these studies that this is not an in-depth study. You know, what I'm doing in 15 minutes would really take 3 hours of study and bringing scriptures into it. So give me some slack. Allow that I'm not going into every verse and detail. I'm just giving an overall picture of what I believe for you to consider and study for yourself. And I'm happy for you to send suggestions or criticisms in. So what happens when Satan's cast out? Well, heaven rejoices, but earth is doomed. Verse 12 says, rejoice, you heavens, and them that dwell in them, but the earth's cursed, because the devil's mad. He knows his time's short and his fate's sealed. And Satan will cause mayhem on the earth. Verse 12, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, cursed of the sea, for the devil is come down to you, having great wrath, because he knows he has but a short time. That's why he's after the bride. If he can kill the bride, she'll never get raptured. Satan fears the rapture. That's why it's caught. The bride is caught up before Satan can do anything. He's waiting for it to be delivered, but it's caught up and he's caught out. When the bride's caught up, Satan is caught out because he can't stop it. And he knows when the bride goes to heaven, he's cast out and his place is there no more. He can't accuse the brethren, and he knows he has a short time. We've just read it. So what does he do? Well, he persecutes the remnant of the seed. He persecutes the woman, verse 13. And when the dragon saw that he was cast upon the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. That's Israel, Jews and Gentiles, who were not in the first rapture. God protects the woman, verse 14. And to the woman were given 2 great wings of an eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, unto her place, where she is nourished for a time, times, and half a time. That's 3.5 times. I believe that's for 3.5 years, 42 months, 1,260 days. It's put in many different ways, but it adds up to the same. Verse 15 and 17. So the woman is protected for 3.5 years. And it says the dragon was angry with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. There's Israel of God, Jews and Gentiles. I believe this is now the time of Jacob's trouble that's prophesied in Jeremiah 30, verse 5 to 7. This will be the greatest persecution of Israel since Adam. Well, Jesus comes after this tribulation. Matthew 24, we've already read it in some previous studies, but let's look at it. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun shall be dark, the moon shall not give her light, and the stars of heaven shall fall, shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with great power and glory. So that can't happen at the time of the rapture. The remnant of the seed are hidden 3.5 years before Jesus comes. So if this part of Revelation's in order, which I believe it is, then I've no doubt that Jacob's trouble happens after the first resurrection. Jesus can't have come. We'll see in the next study the 2 beasts that rise from the sea and the air, that everyone will worship them and force deception, and then Jesus comes and destroys the beast and the false prophet. So Jesus can't have come the second time yet. They want to Christianise music, Christianise politics, Christianise the legal system. They think they're going to take over the world. Actually, they're completely deceived. The opposite's true. Satan in a man is going to be worshipped as God, according to Revelation, and the whole world will be deceived. So it's Jesuit theology that's pervaded the church, that just love everyone. We're going to take over the world and Christianise the world. The opposite's true. Satan will become the god of this world. Well, nothing's new. Message to the prophets to Israel before he sent them into Babylon, Isaiah 42:19. Who is blind but my servant, or deaf as my messenger that I sent? Who is blind as he that is perfect, and blind as the Lord's servant, seeing many things but thou not observe not, opening the ears but he hears not? God's people never seem to learn from history, and they're doomed to make the same mistakes. Ezekiel 13 from 10 to 16. Because they have seduced my people, saying peace when there was no peace. 1 Thessalonians 5:3, we've already read it. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. The one world dictator's going to bring peace. So please do some research for yourself about the lockdown. Outside the mainstream media. The mainstream media is not true, it's propaganda. Satan's the god of this world, so how can those at the top tell you the truth if they're serving Satan, the god of this world? Think about it. You're already deceived if you think otherwise. If you believe the media about this lockdown and the propaganda and the virus and don't realise that it's been the beginning of the one world system to trap us all, you're completely deceived. I beg of you, do your research. It's time to get out of Babylon before she's judged. Well, the time's gone. I'll be here again tomorrow for another study. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. Think about what I've said.